White governments don't want intelligent, critical thinking black populations. They instead only want black populations that are just smart enough to work, pay taxes, fight within their unjust wars, and that are smart enough to be secretly, hiddenly responsible for most inventions that have revolutionized the world. But they want our minds kept gullible enough to believe that we made the N-word ours and that using it ridiculously empowers us. They want us to kept gullible enough to believe that a Bible that strongly condones slavery and that was in fact written by history's proven most ungodliest group of people could ridiculously contain the true words of God. They want us gullible enough to believe that a Bible that was brutally beaten into the blood-soaked minds of our enslaved ancestors by their ungodly enslavers will now ridiculously set us free. And they also want us gullible enough to now believe that we're our worst enemies, in spite of a brutally horrific history, as well as a preponderance of existing evidence, proving that white oppressive forces are in fact still our worst enemies. These are the noted beliefs held by those who are mentally enslaved. Whenever people are mentally enslaved, they'll always believe things that literally insults their own intelligence. Mental slavery is the worst form of slavery because it makes you defend your oppressor's mental enslaving lies while making enemies of your own people that are trying to free your mind from those lies. Those black people who don't critically think never notices their mental chains. Black people, it's time to wake up, critically think, and learn the truth of our plight and condition. Our plight has nothing to do with a biblical fairy tale written by our most ungodliest enemies. Such a belief makes no sense at all. And our collective condition has nothing to do with a silly slave syndrome myth. That myth presents what would be the least effective and the least plausible method used for controlling generations of millions of people. It's simply not how true brainwashing is achieved. Whenever the oppressed are kept misinformed and ignorant by their oppressors, they'll always believe nonsense. What we're truly up against are hidden nefarious social sciences that are being deployed against us unrelentingly by white oppressive forces. Social science is one of the branches of science devoted to the study of human behavior, specifically how people interact with each other, behaves, and develops as a culture. The collective minds and perceptions of the public are governed and shaped by hidden social sciences. These social sciences are secretly used to steer society towards the hidden objective of the white ruling class. To believe that the white ruling class would have developed social sciences for steering a society towards their objective and not use it in ways that serve their hidden objectives against we black people is absolutely ridiculous. Black people are the unknowing greatest victims of the white oppressors' hidden social science campaigns. White oppressive forces now deploys many hidden nefarious social sciences that facilitates their long-term oppression of black people. Doing so provides them with their most sophisticated and most effective system used for covertly controlling and subjugating black people. This racist system is far more sophisticated and unlike anything ever before faced by the black masses. The white society's reasons for doing so is because although all white governments now publicly professes equality for all their citizens, they're all secretly unrelentingly committed to maintaining their position of social dominance over the black population. There's also an immense concern of massive unified black retribution that secretly exists amongst the white ruling class, given the white society's long history of brutally exploiting black people. This immense concern of massive unified black retribution and this unrelenting commitment towards maintaining their white social dominance resulted in white oppressive forces secretly deploying hidden social sciences against black people that meets and serves those objectives. More specifically, they deploy social sciences that aids in maintaining white social dominance and that manipulates the collective minds of the black masses in ways that prevents us from unifying against the white society. To overcome these nefarious social sciences, the black masses must first be educated about them. We must learn of them in order to develop the proper counter strategies that are necessary in order to overcome them. This is why those of us who know the truth must teach African proverb. The social science that I will be discussing within this video is how white propagandists perpetually manipulates the collective minds of the black masses to think in ways serving the white society through unrelenting media subliminal programming propaganda campaigns. The white media's unrelenting negative depictions of black people that amplifies the negative to the point that it distorts our reality is much more than just biased media reporting. It's actually a black racially demoralizing divide and rule psychological warfare campaign. Demoralized divide and rule is the method of maintaining control over a targeted population through constant and unrelenting demoralization in order to create self-hate and division between them. This is what's being done to the black population by white propagandists. This psychological warfare program is deployed like a massive media marketing campaign that constantly subjects the black population to only receiving the fraudulent worst narratives about ourselves. Within this psychological warfare system, fraudulent black racially demoralizing propaganda is being pumped unrelentingly into the unsuspecting minds of the black population without being challenged nor counterbalanced by an equal amount of positive black racially affirming information. Its weapon is the message that it carries and the ways that it adversely affects the black population in terms of our behaviors. Its constant daily assault of deplorable depictions of black people are designed to corrupt our sense of black racial unity and cohesion, mold the character of self-hatred, and engender self-doubt, self-loathing, and division among our ranks that weakens us as a people. It also covertly conditions many black people to believe that we need whites to govern over our lives by convincing us that it's ourselves that have become our own worst enemies. And it insinuates that black people should admire, respect, and trust only whites. Its ultimate objective is to demoralize the black population to such an extent that we therefore believe that we are inherently inferior and that we therefore need whites to govern over our lives. Therefore, we abandon all hopes of liberating ourselves. It instills the myth of white racial superiority into the collective subconscious minds of many black people. Doing so not only makes black people more compliant with white dominance over our lives, it in many cases causes many black people to even prefer it. This psychological warfare system also shifts black collective aggressions away from the white society and redirects it against ourselves. It also produces black self-hatred and disunity, which attacks the core foundation of what bonds us as a people. And we can then be ruled over forever. This system is extremely effective because when black people are presented with propaganda from trusted white sources, constantly telling us to believe the fraudulent worst about ourselves, it can be very difficult to resist its implied propaganda programming, especially when the propaganda is being told daily and so unrelentingly. No group can be constantly subjected to receiving only the fraudulent worst narratives about themselves and not be adversely affected. This psychological warfare system is the true core reason why many black people are now self-loathing, perceives ourselves as being our own worst enemies, and now reveres our oppressors in spite of a brutally horrific history of the contrary. They've shifted our collective aggressions away from them and redirected it against ourselves by keeping us believing the fraudulent worst about ourselves. It's how they did it. And as you know, the oppressed will always believe the fraudulent worst about themselves, which is a quote from Frantz Fanon. Then they dumb down our minds to believe that our mindsets was created by a silly slave syndrome myth, because they know that as long as they keep our understandings of our conditions flawed, then all of our liberating remedies that stems from those misunderstandings will also be flawed. This racist psychological warfare system is far more sophisticated than and is unlike anything ever deployed against the black masses. Deploying it was a logical choice because it provides the white oppressors with a more proficient method used for subjugating and controlling the black population. Furthermore, unlike the past blatant Jim Crow and apartheid racist subjugation tactics that black people could easily identify and therefore unify and develop counter strategies against, this current psychological warfare system is not easily recognized nor easily comprehended by its black victims. And the subjugation of black people always works best when the black victims no longer recognizes how it works. This black racially demoralizing divide and rule psychological warfare campaign allows the white society to continue its exploitation and subjugation of black people without any black resistance. The white society's subjugation and exploitation of Africans has provided with an era which has flourished most throughout history. To allow this era to end would be directly against the interests of the white society, especially given the fact that the white society's dependencies upon the great minds of black people for inventing most stuff and their dependency on Africa's natural resources are all indefinite. These combined factors result in white oppressive forces exploiting their monopoly over information that we receive to manipulate the minds of the black masses to think in ways that allow the white society to continue its exploitation and subjugation of black people without any resistance. Those of us who know the truth are trying to free you from a mental prison that you don't even know you're trapped within. It's only a matter of time before they shut me down. It's only a matter of time, but it doesn't matter. What's more important is the truth must prevail. The truth must prevail. Spread this information. Yes, I know they're heavily shadow banning me, but you must do your part. We must all do our parts to share the truth, spread the truth. One love and peace.